Hey guys, Felicity here from Felicity's Cross Stitcher. Thought I'd come to you today with a stitch with me. I've got a lot of stuff that we can catch up on talking about, and I thought I'd put that separate to a stitch with me video than with a regular Flosstube to try and get my videos back down to a shorter period of time because they've been getting really long lately. So today we are going to be working on the Butterfly Fairy by Joan and Elliot, which is this one here. I hope you can see that. The way my setup is quite different. Also, beware, my chair is very squeaky. I'm hoping to get a new one soon. But this is the Butterfly Fairy, and this is where I'm up to. I took it away with me over Christmas, and I basically worked down here on the bottom of the butterfly and part of her skin. And then about 2 days ago or so, I picked it up and I've done from there onwards. So I've been working on the second bottom page. So I'm just going to be working on some skin here. I've got quite a few things to go through. So last I left you last year, I actually released my latest video when I was over in Miami, because about 2 days after that video we lost our kitty cat Misty. She wasn't doing well over the weekend. She hadn't been eating a lot, so we took her to the vet on the Monday afternoon, and it was kind of for us to just make the decision to let her go to sleep, rather than my friend who was looking after the house and make that decision while we were away for the 6 to 8 weeks. So that's why the video that I uploaded last year in December was actually released when I was in Miami. So over the Christmas period, my parents and myself and a friend, we did this marvelous trip around America. So I actually managed to leave school 2 days early, so I still worked on the Wednesday of that last week. We took the students down to the movies for the day, and that was really fun. And then from there, that night we flew out from Adelaide straight to Doha using Qatar Airlines, and I would happily travel with them again. Had no issues. We had, I think it was about a 15-hour flight over, and we had 3 to 4 hours in the airport at Doha. And then from Doha we flew over Europe to Miami. So we flew over France and England to get to Miami. So that was quite a different experience. We landed there in late on, I think it was the Wednesday or the Thursday afternoon American time. And we took a taxi to get to the airport. And when we were able to get to the airport, we basically got to the hotel room, dumped our luggage. We didn't lose any luggage this time, and then went for a walk. So Dad had booked a hotel that was more based on location compared to quality. So we were able to stay in basically downtown Miami and walked out from where we're staying onto the bayside, onto the curb. They had an absolutely brilliant market going on. So we went through, and it was so pretty. It was all lit up. So we went through that quite a few times and to the shore, and then went down towards the bayside dock area, I think, and we tried to find something to eat for dinner because we'd only really been eating airplane food. And while Qatar was definitely nicer airlines than some others we've flown with, the food is always airplane food and you always get sick of that. So that night I think we found Hooters, and so we went into Hooters and we had I had like a salad. Mum and Dad had like a chowder, and I can't remember what Sinead, my friend, had. But we so we went to Hooters, and I think we had fried pickles for an appetizer, and oh my god, they were delicious. And not expect fried pickles to taste as delicious as they were. Yeah, so from there we had about 3 to 5 days just exploring different areas of Miami down there before we went to catch our cruise. So we went to the Miami Aquarium. I saw flamingos and all sorts of different wildlife. That was good. To me, it felt more like a rescue centre than an actual aquarium compared to what we have at home or ones that we've been to before. What else did we do? We went for heaps of walks. We explored different areas around. Oh, we went to the Frost Science Museum, and my God, that was amazing. We were trying to find something to fill the day, walked up there from our hotel, thought, okay, this looks interesting. Thought we'd spend like 2 or 3 hours, if that, there. Well, 4 or 5 hours later, after the whole day, we had an amazing time. We started from the top level and then went downwards. At the top where was a whole heap of resources about solar and energy, as well as kinetic energy, and how you can do rooftop gardens, and that was really interesting to see, and how they can use solar power and wind power. And then you went down a level and they had like this big open wide aquarium. So they had and in there they also had bird life as well. So there was lots of birds that you could see. We could look into the different fish that were happening. From there you could go down to the 3rd level, which had the actual aquarium that you could see above you, but you could go in and see it, so you could see the underground. They had manatees, all sorts of different wildlife. It was amazing. Yes, they had all sorts of different wildlife, which was absolutely amazing. We had spent so much time just watching the manatees and watching all the different aquariums. I went through and I took some amazing photos once I figured out which setting to use on my camera. Yeah, it was just a great time. We had down, they had different interactive things for children to do, especially like with different engineering tasks as well. Then from there we went to the bottom floor where when you got your ticket, you paid for like a show or a particular discovery thing to watch. So we watched one about the life of the earth, and that was fascinating. Like, you actually sat back in these chairs and you're watching the screen, not just in front of you, but playing above you as well. Alright, so just redrawing a thread, starting over here. So yeah, with Miami it was really fun. We love the Science Museum, as I said. We then went through, made sure we tasted and lots of different variety of foods while we were there, because there was in Bayside there was a variety of different cuisines. So we had Italian, Cuban, Spanish, and we were actually amazed by how many people in Miami spoke Spanish. Like, we were going on, we took a trip to Miami Beach and we took the bus there, so that was an experience. And trying to figure out which bus we could use. We asked a couple of people around us, but their English was not a lot, so that was a bit of a culture shock for us. So once we had finished at Miami, it was time for us to take a taxi to Fort Lauderdale, and we caught our cruise. So our cruise was basically a back-to-back cruise. So it was 2 10-day cruises, so 20 days in total, going around different areas of the Caribbean, which again left from Fort Lauderdale. And we had a blast. I mean, we enjoyed our cruise. We did have some ups and downs in some parts of it, but I have some experiences from that cruise that I will never forget. So we were cruising on the Princess line, on the Crown Princess, and it was a really gorgeous ship. It was a lot bigger than some of the ships I've been on before, so that took a little bit of getting used to, but had lots of fun. Started off our first day, we had a day at sea, and then our first port was at the company's own private island at Princess Keys. I can't remember how to say it. And from there, I did an excursion encounter with stingrays. So we got off the ship via tender onto the beach, and we had the first excursion of the day for the stingray. So there was only 4 of us. There was my friend and myself, and then another couple who did it, one of them was completely scared of the water. So it was like a bit of a snorkel plus a stingray enclosure that was enclosed, so it was all safe. We basically was able to sit on the shore, and the stingrays were coming over and demanding attention of you. It was amazing. I couldn't believe that basically as the stingrays go over you, it feels like jelly, like their skin or their flubber feels like jelly, and you just can't believe it as you're getting there. Like, it just feels so soft, and it tickles as it goes over you. One of the stingray's big mama, she was so demanding of attention, wanting you to stroke her underneath, and I think she even barged between my friend and myself partway through the tour as well. Alright, just going to do a 3/4 stitch here. No, that was really cool. That was probably one of the highlights of excursions that we went on to. From there, I think we had another day at sea, or I can't remember how many days at sea we had in between. We did have quite a few because we had to travel between different islands. And we also had some changes and some hiccups throughout the way. Alright, so the next port we went to was St. Thomas, and oh my god, I have never seen so many jewelry stores in my life around the whole Caribbean. I was not expecting, like, I've kind of heard about it that the Caribbean was the place where you go buy jewelry, but I did not expect so many jewelry places to be there. But in St. Thomas, we did a tour that went to Coral World and as well as to the beach. But my friend and I, we just stayed at Coral World the whole time because we enjoyed seeing the turtles and seeing a whole heap of different encounters. It was really good to see there that the dolphins were actually not just in an enclosure, they were actually in the sea. That was netted off, but they could have their own fresh fish coming through, and they had been rehabilitated from other aquariums or other sea world, like sea life places around in America. We got to go and see some sea lions as well. It was just a really fascinating time. We also saw iguanas, so they were cool. What else from there? We a whole heap of range of different tropical fish, different sharks. Yeah, so I just love all that sort of marine biology, wildlife. So my actual degree is in biology and mathematics, so I do have a double degree in science and education, and focusing on biology and ecology was one of my strengths and what I love to do. So going to these aquariums and these coral worlds, I was in my element. I just had so much fun, absolutely so much fun. Alright, just a heads up, I now have people at home, so you might hear some other talking around the house depending what's going on. So after that, I think St. Thomas, we went to the next port, and my friend and I went on this excursion out to a particular island. Basically we had the whole island to ourselves, where we could either snorkel or we could swim, we could lay on the beach, basically whatever we wanted to do. So I'm a strong swimmer, so I went out and snorkeled, got to see all the different types of coral that were around, as well as seeing all the different fish. Came back and we just had a bit of a chill on the beach. On the same island there was a little bit of a hill, so we got up on top of the hill and was able to see out to the mainland and see all the different parts of the ocean. And it was just really nice just to sit and chill and sit and swim. Sorry, I'm kind of snuffly because I'm still recovering a bit from a cold from previous years, previous months. Yeah, so that was really just a nice chill day. Had lots of, they gave us some free punch as well, so that was a little dangerous. Yeah, no, it was just really good, and I love swimming, I love snorkeling, so a lot of the trips and things that I chose to do were dealing with that. Then, I can't remember where it was, but the next excursion we did a couple of different excursions compared to everyone else. So this one I went and did a turtle encounter and stingray beach, or a beach, and my god, that was absolutely awesome. So it was a bigger tour, not in one of those boats where you're like just like barely holding on. It was a big double-stroke boat. We went out to the sites, and we were going to start with a shipwreck as a snorkel, but due to there were many people around where the turtles were and there weren't many turtles there, but in the end we actually started with the turtles. They did have some sightings come back. I stayed away slightly from the group just to keep aware of what was going on so I could see what was happening. It just if there's so many people around, you see more without them around. And I got to see a couple of big turtles. We even saw like a baby turtle in the water, and that was amazing. I've done a snorkel before that's supposed to see turtles and never seen turtles. So that was a real highlight of my trip as well, was being able to go to snorkeling and see the turtles. From there we went to the shipwreck, and just seeing how the coral has come onto the shipwreck was also really fascinating. And then before we went back to the boat, we were able just to sit and swim, or dive off or splash off or jump off the boat, because it's a double-story boat, into the water, and that was a lot of fun as well. Because I used to teach swimming, I know how to dive, so I actually dived with the boat, and the first dive was absolutely brilliant. The next two weren't so good, but I had a lot of fun, and I know others did as well. At that time, I think my friend, who is not a big swimmer, she did a underwater submarine, and enjoyed that, and saw a whole different wildlife as well from there, which meant she could still go down to the bottom of the sea and see that wildlife without having to worry about the depth or being out in the water by herself. The next one, I don't remember what ports were at, I just remember what we were doing, and I actually did this one with my parents, was going to doing a rainforest walk, going into a manor, and then seeing some boutiques. Went to the boutique and the manor. It was basically the same place, and got to see how the people make the boutique fabric. I didn't come home with any fabric. There was some that I loved, but I didn't fall in love or know what I would do with it. That was also like going like, oh, what would I do? But there's a lot of pinks and purples and blues over there that I really loved, and I would have, if I had a chance, brought home with me, but I didn't. Then we went on a rainforest walk, and that was really, really fascinating. There were some parts of the track which were kind of hard to get around, so it was a real proper rainforest walk. It wasn't for the weak-hearted. But just seeing the how vibrant the rainforest was, and the different colours and different variety of species that you could see, that was fascinating. Our guide was also very knowledgeable about all the different areas and all the different plants. From there, that was basically the end of the first cruise. So for the part of the first cruise, I did get a bit of a cold, which managed to feel better of. So we were still getting some of these with like sniff and snuffles, and due to being asthmatic, you always get a cough. However, that was okay. And then we had a day at sea, and then we went back to Miami, and we were supposed to do the Everglades and the airboat and the Flamingo Gardens tour. However, the night before and like that morning, I came down with very severe gastro. So that meant our tours were a little bit adjusted and plans were adjusted. So I went down to the nurse, had a shot from the nausea, and then I was supposed to I have to have like 0 clearance. So I got told I didn't have to leave the boat, but then I got told that I did have to leave the boat. And so I was wiped for that whole day and the next day. And then I basically was in like isolation for about 2 days from that, so the first 2 sea days, and thought we did well and hadn't passed it to anyone. And then my friend and my mother came down with it. So it was an interesting time for about 3 to 4 days of the second cruise. The 4 of us were like not very well. And it doesn't help being on a boat which had then lost one of its generators, so we had to cancel some ports as well. So the second part of the cruise was a little bit more rocky than the rest. Yeah, so I got sick, my friend got sick, Dad shook it off within a day, Mum was fine within a day, but it all just sapped our energy. And because the ship had also lost a generator, we had to cancel one of the ports. So we cancelled the Dominica port. So that meant we could go to a different port instead. So while we were there, we didn't do many tours in the second one, because we had booked to do a chocolate one, but that tour didn't exist in the end. And then there was also a spice garden, and that was the one in Granada where it got cancelled. From there, in the end, we did a tour around Curacao, so looked into the liqueur and how that was made as well. That was fascinating. It's been made from this particular type of orange tree, and so really enjoyed tasting that. And they had all different flavours as well, so that was really interesting. I've never had more rum in my life being in the Caribbean than I have at home. So after our cruise, we had a day in Fort Lauderdale, and from there it was just a day in between our cruise and then heading up to Orlando. So in Fort Lauderdale, on the way up, I convinced Mum and Dad to let me go to a cross-stitch store. So I went to the cross-stitch cupboard and had a ball. Kind of did come back with some stash, which I'll show in my regular video, which I'm hoping I'll be able to get to film soon. I just thought I'd do this one first. From there, we drove from Miami up, from Fort Lauderdale up to Orlando. So that's like a 3-4 hour drive. And being Australian, we're still not used to driving on the right hand side of the road, because we drive here on the left hand side. So once we drove up there, we got to our accommodation, which was really we loved where we were staying, and we bought some packages and tickets, and the next day we headed to Disney World. And so we decided to start with the Magical Kingdom. Mum and Dad had to do like a presentation due to what type of accommodation we were staying at. So they joined us later in the day, and my friend and I, we started out first. Oh my god, Disney World was amazing. So as I said, we started in Magical Kingdom, went around and did many rides and different encounters. Had a blast. I have so many photos on my phone about being at Disney World, about the different rides, about how similar it is as well to Disneyland. The castle in Disney World is so much bigger than Disneyland, but I know that the one in California was the original one. Some of the rides are very similar. It's a Small World After World is nothing. I prefer the one in Disneyland. Just that's the original one to me. Makes my way more sense. We stayed and watched the fireworks that night as well. And then we spent the next so we had a 3-day pass for Disneyland, and we spent the next 2 days exploring other parks. So the first part was Magical Kingdom. Second part we went to on the second day we did Epcot and Hollywood Studios in the same day, and we used the flying magical thing, I don't know, what's the thing that you call on the air that you go on, that you go across the parks rather than driving. I can't remember the name of it. So we went on one of those that transferred to the different parks. We didn't stay for the show Fantastic, but we did all the different rides. I had heaps and heaps of fun. Loved the ride at Epcot where you went through the beginning of time. That was narrated by Judi Dench. That was fascinating. I absolutely loved Epcot and how they actually sustain and grow their own food. That turned all of our interest in, and how they actually grow pumpkins into the shape of Mickey heads. So on the third day third day of our pass, we went to Animal Kingdom, which was nice, and it was interesting seeing actual live animals in the park. However, we queued up for one of the rides, the Pandora ride, and that took forever. That just took forever, and it wasn't up to our expectations in the end anyway. So we enjoyed Animal Kingdom, but it wasn't my favourite park. My favourite was probably either Magical or Epcot, just by the differences that were there. And so we spent that day, and then after finishing at Animal Kingdom, we went back to the Magical Kingdom and had lots of fun just going around the park again, doing all the different rides that we liked to do beforehand, redoing the ones that we did like. Yeah, so we had the 3 days, and that was really good. And then from there we went and did Universal Studios. So we also had a 3-day pass to Universal Studios with this package that we bought. So we started off doing the first day at just the regular Universal Studios, and had a blast. Had an absolute blast doing all the different movies, all the different rides. We also had the park hopper, so we could jump between parks easily, and meant we could also do the Harry Potter world. And oh my god, walking into Diagon Alley, you just felt like you had been put into the Harry Potter universe. They have done that and designed that so well. So well. That was just icing on the cake. Just icing on the cake. So we were able to catch the Hogwarts Express over to Hogsmeade, and then did that, and just seeing the different ways was amazing. And I think, and both ways you go on Hogwarts Express, the actual visual experience is different. You just felt like you stepped into the world of Harry Potter. And after being a part of Magical Stitches all last year, it was just an amazing way to end the year. Absolutely. Well, this isn't the new year, but it just felt amazing. The first day we tried to stay around and watch the dragon. However, the dragon was broken. But we did convince my mother to get on more rides than she ever has in her life, and I don't know if she yet forgives me for that. And I think the next day we did the other park of Universal as well. So we did the islands. We didn't do Volcano Bay. We just did the islands. And that was fascinating. We just had lots of fun. We did have a day in between where we went to SeaWorld because we had to change accommodation. So we changed accommodation from being in Orlando actually then to going and staying in Daytona Beach. Which I know is about an hour and a half out of there, but we still travelled back from Daytona Beach into Orlando so we could finish off doing Universal Studios. So we had a blast. So that was about 3 days at Disney, 3 days at Universal, and a day at SeaWorld. So we had like 7 days just going around the different areas of Orlando. Because of where we stayed, we were able to self-cater rather than having to buy out all the time, and we actually took salads into the park as well, so we didn't actually buy a lot of food at the parks. And then from going to Orlando, we were given, as part of this accommodation package, a 3-day, basically 2-day scenic cruise to the Bahamas. So we went on this different company, very small cruise liner, which basically you got there on it, you were at the port the next day, and then the day after that you're back in the US. So it was a very short trip. Just looking at the pattern. It's a very short trip. We enjoyed it. Mum and Dad got off on the day on the island. My friend and I, we just kind of sat and recuperated with what was going on from being tired and being sick. It was also basically towards the end of the holiday, and we were all ready to come home. So then after we got back, we went straight from there to the airport and then took the long trip back, which was Miami back to Doha, then Doha back to Adelaide. Landed in Adelaide, and actually it was a really mild day, and of course while all this was happening, all we could see on the news was all the fires that were going on, and the only way we got knowledge at home was from people at home telling us what was going on, as well as seeing it on the news. Now the major area over in New South Wales that was devastated was around Batemans Bay. I mean, everywhere was devastated, but one place over in New South Wales, it was Batemans Bay. That is an area where my parents and we have travelled quite frequently. We have timeshare about half an hour away at a town called Tomakin, so we know that whole area very well, and seeing the footage that came out either online or in the press was heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. Personally, our own home here was never any danger. We're in the suburbs of Adelaide, so we really don't have, when we get very many fires, as dangerous or as big as that. However, many of you do know that Kangaroo Island is also in South Australia, and the thing that's close to our family is that that's where my mum grew up. My grandfather was in World War II, so came back. He was a soldier. He used to be a farm boy and went into the package for the soldier settlers. So he basically took land over in Kangaroo Island down the west end around Karata, which is just basically a town. It used to be a town, now it's just basically a hole, but that's all gone. So they thought they'd saved the west end from the fires. They thought they'd saved the chase, and then it came back again. So from where my mum's farm used to be, you could actually see out and see Flinders Chase down the west end of the beach, and you could also see Hanson Bay. Hanson Bay, their sanctuary has survived from the koalas, so their sanctuary has survived, but the cabins and the accommodation that was there has gone. The town hall of Karada has basically gone. There's a lot of damage, but it's slowly rebuilding, and let's hope that the people there are strong and they will rebuild, and the bush will come back even better than ever. So that was devastating to come home to and to watch on all the news. So that's just January and the holidays. From there, it was a bit of a waiting on edge about hearing if I had a job for this year or not. So I'm a teacher, and because the way things have been going, it's been on contract after contract, and you get told where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing. And I liked the school I had last year, but then I had some trouble with one particular year level class. So it was harsh, but we got there in the end. And then, so I was waiting for phone calls. Luckily enough, I do have a job this year. I'm working at a different school, which is about 20 minutes from me. It's about 5-10 minutes up the road from my previous school. And I'm teaching year 8, 9 and 10 maths, year 8 science, and due to some circumstances I've actually started off the year on contract being part-time at 0.8, so teaching 4 out of 5 classes. But I've actually picked up an extra class. I'm actually now also teaching year 10 science due to a teacher going off on stress leave. So she went off on stress leave in about 4 weeks ago now. So I've had the class for 4 weeks, and we can't see her coming back next term. Then, to talk about the elephant in the room, we have with what's happening within the whole world at the moment with the COVID-19. I have been trying to basically stay at home. So I'm in South Australia. I'm still working because teachers are essential workers at the moment. Right, so I had to change needles and I had to change threads. So we've done this skin part of her leg, so that's all done. Now we're heading back into looking at her skirt. So I'm just going to backtrack slightly before all this COVID-19 business has really hit the fan. Some of you may or may not know, if you follow me on Instagram or Cat Caught Me, is that we, in the end of February, decided to go and start looking at kittens again. And we brought home a little orange, ginger and white tabby kitten. So her name is Nala, and if you hear any of the bells racing around outside the door, that's because that she is being a mad kitten and having lots of fun and being a little ratbag. So she has a tendency to actually climb things, and has decided that climbing the fly screen in the dining room to go out to the balcony is fun. She has a tower that she likes to leap off, and also loves chasing balls up and down the corridor, which is right outside. We've also just put a collar on, and she's not quite used to a collar at this stage, and so she hasn't learnt how to walk without the bell ringing at the moment. So if you hear a bell ringing or a skitter or a scat, that's because we have a new little kitten. She's about 20 weeks old. Put some photos in at the end of her. She was already named Nyla, so we got her from a foster family, and she's brought laughter back into the house after we lost Misty last year. Sometimes she gets called Miss Nala because we get the name mixed up, but she's lots of fun. She works to her own agenda. She's not really cuddly, like she'll be near you or be in the room that you're in. doesn't mean that she's actually going to sit on you and settle. So she's not cuddly at the moment. But my God, she's a rat bag. I mean, all kittens are at the start. They always are rat bags, but it's getting used to what's going on again. So with this COVID-19 that's going on, I hope that everyone is being well. It has hit very quickly, and the numbers that have skyrocketed is scary. So here I'm in South Australia, so we have had some restrictions put onto us, which means probably filming videos is going to be a little bit interesting because I can't keep my parents out the house at the moment, and I normally don't like filming when they're around. So you probably can hear some people in the background. They are home. Normally on a Saturday they'd be going out to the gym. Well, they can't do that now. They go on walks. If I was filming on a Sunday, they would normally be out at church. Again, they can't go out because of church, because they have been cancelled. So it's all just a little bit tedious in trying to find some alone time at the moment. Since I'm a school teacher in South Australia, we've still kept schools open, so that's been interesting. I've been worried myself though, because I'm asthmatic and I really don't want to get whatever this virus is. As much as my father would like to deny it, he is in the risk category because he is over 70, a high blood pressure, and has some other medical condition as well. So I don't really want to be bringing it home from school in case any of the kids at school have got it to him. So there's a whole heap of things that are going on. I'm going to try and see if I can get clearance to work from home next term, but that doesn't mean that I will, and it's still in the negotiation stage. However, the South Australian Premier has decided to bring forward the school holidays for the students, so that means that we teachers still have to go to school on Monday, but we have pupil-free days, so it means that the students aren't there, but we are, and we are going to be setting up our learning online, basically. So no, that's not the wrong spot. Hang on. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6 down. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, okay. Right spot. Yeah, so we're now setting everything up for online learning. So that's going to be interesting. We've actually divided it into teams, so we're actually working with about 2 to 4 people in each team to get the resources and set up so that the person who does teach that class, we all can teach exactly the same thing. The resources are all there, and we can just get up and go. So we've got more time on Monday through to Thursday next week before Easter to work on that. But it's been very, very, very stressful. So I've been kind of hibernating, just stitching and marking and trying to keep my head above the water. Throughout this process, this whole thing, this is the main thing I really want to talk about, which is really important, is that we have some family friends who have gone through their own, like we've travelled with them all the way through. We call them a trip family. And we have a couple there who have gone through some ups and downs within their own personal lives, and we count them so close in our family. Mum and Dad were actually supposed to do a cruise around Japan with them, like this weekend. We were supposed to be this weekend in Melbourne for her 80th birthday. Celebrating with, we were invited to go to their family celebrations, as well as then to do the one that would have been tomorrow as a whole group. Well, due to everything, they've been cancelled. from the celebrations, Mum and Dad were supposed to leave on Monday with them on a cruise. And their cruise was supposed to go around Japan. Well, when all this virus hit, and especially after the Diamond Princess had all the quarantine in Singapore, the company called up and cancelled their cruise. So that was cancelled already about a month or two ago. Then we heard just before they cancelled the birthday celebration. No, actually, sorry. We heard last year that this couple wouldn't be able to go on the cruise with Mum and Dad because he had survived in recent years with lots of different cancer scares, but he was diagnosed with liver cancer, so they had to postpone, cancelled their cruise and getting onto chemo and onto treatment. However, his body wasn't coping with chemo, was not coping with chemo at all. It couldn't cope. So the weekend when she called up to cancel the birthday celebration, she also said that he had been going off chemo and that enough was enough. From there, within that same week, on that Saturday, we then got another phone call to hear that he had passed away on that Saturday afternoon. And he was the life, he was a true Australian gentleman, worked on a farm all his life, and one of the humblest, kindest mans I've never met. From there, we were hoping that we could have got over to the funeral, but border restrictions and even more tougher isolations happened. So the funeral was Friday last week, not the week yesterday, but the week before. We couldn't get over due to the isolation, and even within their own family they have more than 10 people, so it wouldn't be fair. From that, I actually have filmed the funeral, so we've got the link to the funeral, so we're going to probably watch that this afternoon as together as a group with together with Mum and Dad. But they've come out with something from this whole situation. He didn't want flowers or to be sent or money to be sent to a particular fund once he passed away. What he would have wanted, and what Judith, which is his wife, and her grandchildren, sons, her family are now trying to do, is raise enough money to get a cuddle bed in the palliative care ward over in Bairnsdale. So they're in rural Victoria, part of the community everywhere. And within those last couple of days, Judith wasn't able to get close to be with her husband through his last days. They didn't have in their palliative care ward a bed where you could have fit 2 people uncomfortably. Each of those beds cost about 10,000 Australian dollars. And I think it's one of her son-in-laws or grandsons has set up a GoFundMe to raise money for that, so that they can get a bed in a palliative care bed in that ward, which would have made the last couple of days of his life and the suffering for the family a lot kinder. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put the link to the GoFundMe at the bottom in the description box. And I know that in this hard time with everyone, what's going on, not many people will probably want to donate. I don't think even Michelle is doing a charity this month, she's taken some time off after market. But if you could spare anything to donate to this couple, to this GoFundMe, so that they could get a cuddle bed for the palliative care, I would appreciate it so much, and so would they. He was the kindest, hardworking man. He just just the person that you cherish to call your friend, to call your family. I've known him since I was 8. I've known him for 20 years. It was this coming up in August, September this year that would have made him for 20 years. It's hard now to imagine life without him. To imagine that it's only going to be Judith at the end of the phone and not Peter. Where we haven't had a chance to actually properly say goodbye with our grief. Sorry. He and his wife ran a cottage on their farm called Annie's Cottage, where people who have families in Victoria who struggle with health issues or disabilities, that they could go to that cottage on the weekend and have some respite. They've been sheep farmers. Those Judith and Peter were soulmates, and now to know that you've only got Judith and you don't have Peter, it's just going to be hard. It's hard on them, it's hard on us, especially with us being in South Australia and not being able to be there for the family. But if you could spare anything to support and donate for this cuddle bed for the family, I would appreciate it. They would appreciate it. And everything helps for anyone in this same situation. It would just mean so much to me personally as well as to them. They don't know that I've asked or put this onto you, like put this onto our channel, like onto Flosstube, to ask for this to help out. But if we could help out in any way, that would just be a light in this whole terrifying situation with what's going on with COVID. If COVID wasn't on, we would have been there in a heartbeat. We would have been there, supported them as much as we could. But we can't. And the way that I want to try and help them out and support is to raise awareness for these beds, for people in palliative care, to raise awareness for him, who was the kindest and the best man I could ever known. But sorry to leave on a sad note. I'm just gonna have to leave that there. I can't do any more. I hope you enjoyed hearing of what I've done over the last 3 months. But please, if you could, just donate to that GoFundMe and let's see them get a bed in that ward for other people who are going through the same situations. Stay safe, stay healthy.
Hey guys, just wanted to come in and film a bit extra for the video. I got very emotional towards the end there and couldn't continue. This is from the words of their grandson about Peter, and it's actually from the GoFundMe description, but also we had an email sent through and just wanted to add in a couple of words from there. So Peter Robbins, Order of Australian, just lost his battle to cancer and left us at the age of 83, having just celebrated 60 years of marriage to Nan Judith Robbins. In the last few days of Pa's life in the palliative care ward of Bairnsdale Hospital, all my Nan wanted to do was to get into bed with Pa and cuddle him. Unfortunately, there isn't any double cuddling beds in the palliative care ward, so the only form of contact was holding Pa's hand during his last days while sitting uncomfortably in a chair next to him. After Pa's passing, Nan vowed to donate at least 1 to 2 cuddle beds if possible to the Bairnsdale Hospital. However, these beds are very expensive, which is about 10,000 Australian dollars, and for this to happen, she needs a hand from family, friends, and the local community to help with the purchase of this, as this donation will assist so many people, both young and old. Nan and Pa were awarded the Order of Australian for the running of Annie's Cottage for 30 years, a respite house which has given hundreds of families with a child with life-threatening illness a holiday. This is one way of giving back to Nan and Pa, who have given so much of their time helping families go through similar time of making the end lasts much more comfortable and enjoyable for the families involved. If you can spare anything, Nan will be so grateful and hope he can fulfill her wishes and leave a lasting legacy to remember Pa. He was a farmer his whole life who diversified into the wedding decor industry with Nan for 25 years. He was an extremely keen traveller who really enjoyed seeing the world, meeting and making so many new friends, and loved telling everyone about where they had been. He was always a listener who loved knowing what you've been up to or what you're doing at work. He was always someone who could go to advice about anything. He had a keen interest in world news, politics, Collingwood, or reading someone's biography which he loved telling you about. Looking back through the old photos, he could have been a movie star, but the farm was where his life took him, and after the 3 years of drought, it was great for him to see grass again in the paddocks the last 3 months. I always thought he'd be the one to live to 100 because he was the fittest grandparent for his age that I knew, but the dreaded Big C got him again before his time. We're going to miss you and love you very much. So, they're going through a hard time, we're going through a hard time, but again, just want you to know, if you could donate anything, we would all really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to link this, and I'm just going to put this in now. But hope you all stay safe, stay healthy, love you all.